I'm sorry, but this story has no ending. Because stories don't end as much as they grow one into the next, and if you have the courage and wisdom, you grow with them. There was a time when I could tell stories to my youngest child, stories that would make us laugh until we had tears in our eyes, stories that would bring such comfort to this little kid, they'd fall asleep. And back then I imagined that she would dream of who she was and who she was becoming. And back then I imagined she would become a woman someday, beautiful in so many ways. Her name was Grace, I imagined back then. Back then, when Gracie was 5 or 6 years old, she used to come to me and say, "Daddy, would you rub my back? Would you tell me a story, help me fall asleep?" And I loved this, of course. We told so many different stories, but this was our favorite, the Snowman story. It started like this. Gracie, one night it snowed, and the next day there was no school for my brothers and my sister, your uncles Steve and Pete, your Aunt Christine. We couldn't wait to get outside the next day. I remember going outside, and the snow was coming down. It was magical. We got to the top of the little hill in front of our house, and we began our day of sledding. And after a few trips down, Uncle Pete had this idea. He said, "Let's each of us make a little snowman halfway up the mountain. Then bring our sleds up there and then zip down and crash through these snowmen." I still remember the snow flying everywhere. We fell off of our sleds, Gracie laughing. We said, "Let's do it again." And so 4 more little snowmen were made, and 4 more little kids went to the top of the hill, but only 3 came down, Gracie. I stayed at the top because I wanted my brothers and sister to see what I was going to do. I was going to make my own way through the snow. I was going to head right to the large snowman that we made 3 days earlier. So as my sled got faster and faster, I had no idea that this snowman had turned to solid ice. So Gracie, when I slammed into the side of the snowman, what do you think happened? And her little voice would come in the darkness from the hallways. And she'd laugh and she'd go, "Daddy, the snowman did not move." I go, "You're right." And she'd laugh. She said, "And your sled did not move, Daddy." I go, "That is right. The only thing that moved was my little body. My little body shot forward. I slammed into the snowman. Gracie, I am telling you, I slammed face first into a snowman, and you are laughing, and we would lean against each other and laugh so hard. I swear we had tears in our eyes." Now, right about now, Gracie would always start to fall asleep. And I'd continue the story. "Gracie, I fell off my sled. I was crying. My brothers and sister brought me to my mom, and she held me just as I'm holding you right now. And she kissed me just as I'm kissing you right now. And she rubbed my back until I fell asleep." And at this point, Grace would always be asleep. And if stories had endings, this is where my story would end. I would tiptoe out of the room. I would close the door behind me. I would be forever 42 years old, and my daughter would be sleeping, dreaming of who she was and who she's becoming. But stories do not end. They grow one into the next. About 18 months ago, our youngest child reached out to my wife, Kathy, and me and said, "Mom and Dad, you need to know something that I've known my whole life, but I haven't had words for it, but now I do. You need to know that I am not a girl." I don't know if that makes me a boy or a man or something that they have not invented the words for yet, but I know this, Mom and Dad. I am not a girl. And then he added, "Mom and Dad, you need to know that I do not want my name to be Grace anymore. I want a name that speaks of the past and speaks of the future. I want to be known as Grayson." I still remember a single tear running down his cheek, getting to his jawline, waiting there as if gaining the courage to let go, to set itself free. And so this story that started about a little girl named Grace has grown into the story of a young man named Grayson, with the courage to make his own way through the snow, perhaps, but through life, definitely. And the story of a 42-year-old father holding his child has grown into a father much older, still holding his child, still telling their stories, still laughing together until they both have tears in their eyes.